Hello, everybody watching. Those who went to Vegas and who didn't go to Vegas. It is not Monday night. It is Tuesday night. Turns out challenges are tiring, and so is travel. And um, so here we go. We're a day later. I've already apologized to Breezy for stepping a little bit on Lorcana After Dark. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. It was an exciting weekend. I can't wait for this episode. We're going to keep this about an hour because everybody is exhausted. Everybody's absolutely exhausted who went to Vegas, and probably those who watched Vegas, and or if you watched the European Championships, because that was a lot of not championships, but Birmingham, because that was a lot of Lorcana this weekend. But it was an exciting event. This probably was, and I'm going to ask the guests to come in here shortly. This probably was, I mean, it was the best challenge I've been to, from not only the organization, but the side events and the giant screen and the Olaf walking around and the members of Ravensburger being there. It just, everybody who is involved stepped it up another notch. Each challenge gets better than the last. And they're starting to feel like, now that I've had the privilege of going to multiple of them, they're starting to feel kind of like, it's going to sound cheesy, but little family gatherings, because you see some of the same people there every time, and not everybody makes it to every one, but you run into somebody who you saw in Atlanta and it's all exciting, or somebody who you interact with online, and I don't know. Overall, it was just a great experience. Before I bring guests, a couple thank yous. I do owe a thank you to a lot of people at Vegas who helped me out with a variety of things. There's a number of people, Stephen Gettle, Scott, who brought me supplies because I had a voice problem, and so I got some lozenges and some tea and some other stuff, some advice from Carolyn on how to take care of myself. So thanks to all those folks. And then I also have to call out, I got probably the coolest gift. It was my birthday on Sunday, and I got the coolest gift that like any Lorcana person's ever gotten me. I think this is from a friend, a longtime friend of the channel and friend Ixia, who got this signed at D23 by Nicholas Cole. And not only does he saying happy birthday, Liam, but on the back, it's Kronk singing happy birthday, or his version of happy birthday, which is just pretty cool. So like, talk about something that I'm, gonna have for the rest of my life. And I don't know, it's pretty neat. So I mean, it meant a lot that Ixia took the time to do that at D23, thought about it ahead of time, and then bring it to Vegas. So I appreciate that. But and the last thank you is to everybody out there who watched the stream at all, who supported, those of us casting, who asked us questions or chimed in. It's a lot of work for not only the broadcast team on the technical side, but those of us who were casting. And I appreciate everybody who took the time to see what we were doing and watch the matches. So yeah, it was great. All right. So with that, we have some folks we need to bring in here. First, you know him as almost a co-host of Let's Talk Lorcana. It's Brendan B Squared.
Well, hello.
Brendan, I just wanted to hang out with you a little bit more. I didn't get to cast with you this weekend, so I wanted the opportunity to like kind of do that.
Yeah, it made me a little bit sad to not cast with you this weekend, but we were in I was going to say the green room. It was just kind of a back behind some curtains room for half of it, I guess, because the first day, obviously, you were with Tannen. So every time you guys were on, we were off, and every time we were off, or we were on, you were off. But yeah, I couldn't agree more about everything that you said about the challenges and feeling like little family gatherings. Like, I always say before and after every challenge that it's my favorite thing just to see everybody and talk to everybody. And I've had some great conversations both at the challenge and after the challenge with a bunch of people. And I couldn't agree more, especially about how this challenge felt like the best one in basically all aspects. The guests that were there, like Ryan and Shane and Steve, and even the artists being there as well, were really cool. It was honestly really awesome to watch Ryan and Shane and Steve all three run around the venue the whole time, because basically every single time that I saw one of them, they were either playing games with people just at the convention or talking to people at the convention. I think they had a little ticketed area to like actually play people too, but even when they like weren't doing that, they were sometimes just running around the convention on their own and kind of finding people to interact with, which was cool. And then one other thing, the casting table was like open to the public for the first time.
It was trippy.
It was a little bit trippy. It didn't mess with me near as much as I was nervous about it messing with me beforehand. Thankfully, because the ginormous, awesome looking display screen thing they had going for the viewer section this time was like well above and beyond how good it was at the previous challenges. And so people were more concerned about watching the live matches on stage on there than really paying any attention to us. But I think the attendee experience was better. I think, the viewing experience is better. Everything seemed to go relatively smoothly. So it was a fun time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. As soon as we were out in the open, I was worried like people were going to be waving or making faces, and
Yeah.
but no, yeah, nobody cared about us, and
No, thankfully.
and then we kind of got locked in,
Yeah.
um,
That's what I told
and
people all weekend. Is like as soon as I sat down, put the headset on, and then like started focusing on the match, I had no idea if people were trying to distract me or not. If people took video or pictures of me, I had no idea that they did that. So
I took pictures of you.
okay, well there you go. See,
I haven't sent them to you yet, except when Olaf walked by. Yes, then I broke my concentration.
oh yeah, you guys were in the booth for that.
I couldn't not. Yeah. Speaking of which,
We have
one of my
the
casting,
Tannen
Tannen
Grace.
Grace, one of my casting buddies, in the chat here. Tannen, hi.
Did a great
Um,
job this weekend as well.
Same. Thanks for carrying me. For sure. All right. We have there's a lot more I want to talk about, but I do feel bad with the guest that we have sitting in the green room, because I'm sure he's who most people want to hear from
yeah,
on
bring
us.
him in.
But so let's welcome in the Disney Lorcana Las Vegas champion, Disney Lorcana Challenge Las Vegas champion, Zan Syed. Zan, welcome.
Woo!
Hi.
There he is.
Thanks for having me.
Well, no, thanks for showing up. Like, thanks for being here. I mean, you've been on the show before, I know, but you weren't a Lorcana Challenge champion. That I feel like you have your pick of places to hang out now, and for you to take the time to hang out here for a little bit is awesome. So thank you.
No, I mean it still hasn't set in.
That was gonna be my first question.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Yeah, it hasn't set in at all. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, I think it will keep me grounded and hungry to do well at the tournaments that matter, like continentals and whatever comes after that.
I have a question. You've done very, very well in other card games, particularly Magic, and so you have a lot of accomplishments there. How does this feel different, better or worse, achieving this milestone in this card game versus some of the ones you've achieved in other card games?
I mean, to be honest, this feels like the biggest, honestly. And it's not because of the prizes or like Magic is like my first like TCG love, but I would say like I feel way more at home with Lorcana. And that's for a couple of reasons. I think like, Magic is like like the predecessor to like, no matter how we look at it, Lorcana and Magic are like related in terms of like their game design, right? Like the creator used to design for Magic, right? I'm blanking right now, but yeah. So their relationship, it just feels like this is, chapter 2, and probably like the final this is the game I want to stay in, and as long as Lorcana's around, this is the game I'm gonna keep playing. At this point, you couldn't pay me to go play Magic. It's just the variance that exists in the game nowadays. Like lands are just, now that we have Lorcana, we don't need to play lands, which inherently create so much variance. The reason why I feel so comfortable at this age and stage in my life, where you have to work, you can't afford to go travel across the country and draw too many lands and lose. In this, when you play Lorcana, it feels like you have so much more control over the fate of the game, and if you can, so I feel comfortable flying from Atlanta to Vegas, working from Vegas, and taking that risk, because I feel like any tournament I go to, I have a chance at winning it. as long as um, I like find the right lines, but if I don't, it's usually it's more so my fault than anything else, right? Whether I didn't pick the right deck or I didn't find the right lines. So, yep,
Interesting.
my answer.
Liam, I don't want to jump ahead if you have any other questions for this, but talking about like lines and our correct lines and correct deck choices and things like that. I did want to ask how you landed on Emerald Steel, Zan, because I feel like it was a deck combination, really Emerald in general, that was really flying under the radar for this event. And I
Mhm.
noticed that not only yourself, but quite a few other that I would consider top level Lorcana players were bringing Emerald Steel as well. And so just kind of interested in figuring out what testing was like, how soon you landed there, and then how you felt. I mean, you obviously felt
Oh
good
yeah.
bringing it in, but
Yeah.
No, it was actually quite questionable how we felt. Um, so the testing was, I want to say, my main testing partner for this deck was Lorcana Bro, who is also on Team Labyrinth. Um,
mhm,
and so he reached out to me a week before the event, and so we just started chatting. He shared a green steel deck list that wasn't discard focused at all. It was more focused on Clarabelle, and we tested that matchup against Amber Steel, and I didn't feel like green steel was performing that well. But what I did gather from it was the Diablo Pete interaction, and so um I decided to test more Diablo shells, and I started off with I'm not sure if youve seen Specie's red green discard deck.
mhm,
So I started there, and the card that caught my eye in that was what is it called, Hypnotize. So
mhm.
I got Hypnotize from that deck list, and I felt like I should go back to green steel, taking Hypnotize with me from the red green deck. And so I then started working on this discard shot, sent it to um, Lorcana Bro, and we both did our separate testing. And when we met up, and we felt like the discard shell was the correct shell. Now we just needed to figure out other pieces. So basically, when I showed up on Friday, we were playing Crickies and Smees, and I saw other people playing other cards, and I was contemplating. And on my list of cards, I had Morph, and I saw some people playing Tinkerbells. So I kind of merged a lot of the ideas together and was able to, from the Friday event, come up with Morph and Tinkerbell. And at the same time, Ed ended up coming over to me, who was playing the 11:30 event, the Dallas winner, and he has a testing group who is phenomenal. And I got to test with them for a short amount of time in Toronto. And he came up to me and was like, "You leaked leaked the deck," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" Apparently, they separately had come to the same conclusion as us,
That's
and
so
we were
funny.
6 cards apart.
Wow.
And we had just right before he walked over, Lorcana Bro and I were like, "We're going to put in um the morphs and the Tinkerbells." And he came over and he was like, "The only difference between our lists is we have morphs and Tinkerbells." And I was like, what is happening? And so I still ended up finishing in fourth, even though my deck wasn't at tip top shape. And ended up winning the 11:30. And
Mhm,
so that made me feel a lot more confident, because to bring like a shell that's like not being played at all against like the top 3 decks that have thousands, if not more, people testing it, like the like like thousands of people working on a deck, you're able to get to cards, like the perfect set of cards, because it gives you way more data.
mhm,
So when you have such few people testing, it's sometimes it's a lot of the times wrong to take a risk like this. But the fact that they also reached the same conclusion, and we both crushed the event, um, just made me feel super solid about Saturday. And so it was kind of everything coming together that gave me the confidence to make some of the choices that I did. And I'm not sure if things didn't like align the way that they did, that that I wouldn't have reverted to one of the safer choices and put this on the shelf for later, you know?
That's fascinating because I always think that it takes such, especially when you're going to big events like this, where it might be your one shot to top a big event. It takes a ton of courage to go in with a deck that's not one of the top 3 or perhaps 4, right? Because
Yeah.
like, especially if you're a good player, because if you're a good player and you're confident that you can take one of the top, like highly tested decks and play the mirror better than anybody else, then you're kind of incentivized to bring in, you know, that top deck. And I just think it takes incredible confidence to bring in a deck that is kind of a surprise.
Yeah, my stomach was like felt awful the whole time because I felt so like, am I just completely throwing this opportunity away?
Yeah.
Um,
Also,
yeah.
you're turning locals green steel. It looks like. Look at you. I do want to ask a couple more questions before I do that. There's one other person who's going to hang out with us for the evening
Mhm.
here, and I just want to bring her in from the green room. It's Rebecca.
Oh my
Rebecca!
Hi, Rebecca.
Hey! Hi!
Hello.
Congrats, Zan.
Thank you, thank you.
Yay! Happy to hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun to get some of the gang back together again.
It's like I just saw you all.
Yeah, right.
This is how you know we like each other, people, because we hop on, do a live stream with each other after a long weekend.
Yep. Just to talk some more.
Yeah.
Yeah, gosh, we were talking about green steel. I did, since we're talking about that, 2 things. Well, first, let's take a look at green steel and how it performed. Now,
Whoa.
look, people. Normally, I would have a nice, pretty slide here with colors and everything else, but I don't because it's been a long couple days. So
I like this though. I like it.
Yeah.
This is literally raw data.
Here's all you need to pay attention to is that last column. The bigger the number, the better the deck did, essentially.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And by the way, this was Nive at a kitchen table knocking this out in the wee hours of the morning, all excited. So yeah, so that's the source of this. But yeah, to your point, Brandon, I mean that's exactly right. Like what we see on that right hand column is basically the percentage change in the percent of that deck in the meta versus the day 1 versus day 2.
Mhm.
So as an easy example, Amethyst Steel 56, whatever that percentage is in day 1, and then 0 in day 2. So 0%. But the fun thing to note is, Ruby Sapphire, as you can see, did pretty well for the big 3. Amber Steel, Amethyst, Ruby got, did not convert well at all.
Not really.
That's most likely because they just got eaten by these Emerald decks, which converted at an incredible rate. And Emerald Steel, the best, like more than doubled its representation on day 2, which is like bonkers, I feel like.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And there wasn't even one version. It was a bunch of different versions.
Mm-hmm.
I remember on for the commentary team, we got to take a look a little bit at some of the numbers before we went live, and seeing that jump of the representation of Emerald Steel from day 1 to day 2 just like blew my mind.
Really,
Yeah.
just Emerald in general too. Like
Yeah.
if you look at Amethyst
Amethyst
Emerald, Emerald
Emerald.
Steel, and Amber Emerald, like all of those Emerald shells just did so well. Like get close to doubling their percentage in day 2 compared to how they did in day 1. Emerald was very underrepresented. It was definitely not in the top 3. I think it was in like the top 6 maybe, but yeah, it was a sleeper.
Yeah.
Sleeper.
I will say it's the hardest deck I've played so far in terms of I have a group of friends that I was traveling with, local group of friends, and they went to Vegas early. And so when I felt like confident about this deck, I sent them the list and I was like, please test this list, and if you feel like comfortable, you should consider switching to this. And they started testing it against Blue Red, and they were unable to beat it. They were unable to beat it so many times that they permanently put Emerald Steel on the play.
Wow.
Interesting.
And I was like, are you like, am I getting wrong data or are they getting bad data? And so I show up on Thursday night and I was like, okay, I'm gonna play it and you guys like watch me and see if I do anything different. So we played 5 and I won 5 in a row. And they were like, yeah, we didn't do any of the things that you were doing. And I was like, okay, yeah, like we gotta do this. Like I just like broke it down and then we never looked back. The blue red matchup was quite simple. But sometimes it like in a deck like this, like understanding how to play it does make a huge difference.
hmm That's something that even in the casting booth, Brendan and I don't remember which of your match it was. I think I casted you like 4 or 5 times this weekend. It was great. But the first time you were against Ruby Sapphire, we sat there going, I'm not sure this is a favored matchup for Zan. It's going to be tough for him to get through. And then you just like blew these Ruby Sapphire players out of the water. And it was odd because I was all of the data that I had heard from the people that were playing Emerald Steel was that Ruby Sapphire was the worst matchup for the deck. And then I saw that like a quarter of day 2 was Ruby Sapphire. And even though Emerald Steel converted really well, it was going to be a lot of getting through quote difficult matchup for Emerald Steel. So like, what about the matchup did you find maybe that a lot of other Emerald Steel players weren't playing correctly? Because you played a lot of it. I think you played at least 3 in day 2 to get all the way to the end.
Yeah, I mean, day 1 it was my first 2 matches and I
Mm.
2-0'd it both times. And then in top 64, yeah, I played it the second round of top 60, like top 32. And
Mhm.
then I played it against top 8, right? And I 2-1 one of them and then 2-0'd the other one. But I will say the difference was okay. So there's the reason why blue red had such a great conversion rate, even though most people knew that it was going to be the most popular deck, is because it is now like with visions, it is now 1,000 times more consistent. And as long as you make it to a certain ink, like maybe 10, that means that you can draw visions and play your best card, whether it's Be Prepared or Sisu. And that can change that can flip the who's winning in a blink of an eye. And so it's really about creating a backup plan, then creating a backup plan for the backup plan, and sometimes creating a backup plan for the backup plan for the backup plan. And so what you'll notice is I'm like holding a lot of resources to
Mhm.
think, okay, if my opponent draws this wrath, let's say it's Be Prepared, then what would be the best thing for me to follow up with? Now let's say they draw Be Prepared into Sisu. What's the best way to follow up? So then I want to be like, okay, that means my beast should come out second, because then it makes their Sisu into Be Prepared. like
Mm.
like you have to order it correctly, and then you also have to know what their count is. So for example, if you watch my match against the first blue red player I played against in top 32, in game 3 they had both of their Be Prepareds in their opening hand, and I
Mhm.
took both of them. One with like what I did was I sudden chilled my opponent, but on that same turn I could still play an Ursula. But the reason why I sudden chilled first is because I knew that my opponent would discard the first Be Prepared, thinking that um not they have a backup Be Prepared. But the second Be Prepared, I'm just gonna take with the Ursula, but they don't know that. So I'm gonna take both of them, and that means for the rest of the match, I don't have to think about Be Prepared ever again. Which means that you see one of the turns, all I do is play Hidden Cove, and I just go put all my people at the Hidden Cove. All
Yeah.
my characters are at the Hidden Cove, and now I'm playing around Sisu, which is the only rat that they
Mhm.
have available to them. So, like, it's easier said than done in the moment. What you see people do is they're like, we need to end the game the quickest. Let me just throw everything out. Let me just throw everything out. And then they end up drawing the Sisu, and they get punished so hard that they end up losing a match that they should have just created a backup plan for a backup plan for a backup plan. So yeah, I know it's like super.
All the backup plans.
Yeah. That's interesting. Planning it. So the biggest key you're saying is, planning. I mean, mulligan properly, obviously, but then planning around those board wipes and sequencing things.
Yep.
Okay, you said mulligan properly. So what is the strategy with the mulligan here, Zan?
Mulligan
I
properly.
know a lot of people are really interested in that.
Okay, so yeah, mulligan properly. That's so such a loaded. So you have to be you have to put this deck makes you play at the edge of your seat. For example, I'm up a game in the finals, and we go to game 2, and I know that nobody else got to see this because there was no hand cams for in the very end, and I'm all against 7. I went straight 7, and like what what tends to happen is when you look at your hand, you start to make justifications for cards that you could keep, but the reality is that a lot of the times, like your average mulligan is probably like 5.8, which is insane. And my 7 ended up being super crazy. Super crazy good. But basically what you're looking for is a plan, and I'll tell you some of the plans. Obviously, the plan that you would like to have every single time is Diablo, the Diablo plan.
Yep.
If you don't have the Diablo plan, then you would love to have the Beast plan, which is morph into Beast. If you don't have the morph into Beast plan, then the other plan that you would like to have is Ursula, Sudden Chill,
Prince John.
Prince John, yes. And so that is another combination, because if you go Ursula, take their friends on the other side, turn 3, play Prince John, and then sing the Sudden Chill. It just puts you in such a great spot, and then you can just follow up with cards like Hypnotize, or Hypnotize and a 1-drop Diablo, and that eventually allows you to put another character out there, and then you'll quickly see that they have no cards left, right? You can also sing a song with that Prince John on turn 4, which can be Let the Storm Rage On, and that means that the only things that they have left are in their hand, and you're just trying to get them to 0 cards so that they're top decking from the top of their deck.
So here's the thing that kills me. While you're talking, if you're anybody not watching, I'm playing your mulligan from the second game of the finals you're talking about.
Yep.
You had the Ursula, Sudden Chill, Prince John line.
Yep.
And you sent it away.
Okay, I'll explain why. Because this is the mirror match, and that doesn't do anything, right? What is the counter to a Prince John? It's a Diablo. Right? If they draw cards off of the like, if they make you discard a card and you have a Diablo in play, you discard that card, whichever card you want, but they draw cards off of the Prince John, that means you draw cards again. So it's just filtering. So it ends up being like net neutral. So
yeah,
you like, I have to say that's the third one I want, right? I want Diablo number 1. Number 2, I want Beast. And even morph into Tinkerbell is a better situation, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're gonna see that Diablo line here.
God, Chris's deck is beautiful.
It's blinged out. So shiny. Shiny. Yeah.
It makes it hard as a caster sometimes, because when the light catches it right, they play something and you're like,
what was that?
I think that's, I don't know what that is.
I love that's my shirt.
Yeah, it is your shirt. I think you're leaning forward on the table in front of the hand cam.
Great shirt, by the way.
Love it. Thank you.
Occasionally you did that and gave us a nice it's great.
The shirt is like a towel material, so it's great, when the bathrooms run out of paper towels.
Call that variance. You can use it as a shirt, you can use it as a towel.
Yeah. And this I got the nuts. my mulligan to 7 was the best it could possibly be.
Yeah. And it made the next game a lot quicker than the first game.
Yep.
Golly. What? Oh man. Well, sorry. I just kind of want to watch this for a second because there it is. There's all the shiny. And he's not on a great draw either here.
No. Chris Mulligan
Pretty
6.
bad.
Chris Mulligan 6, and that's part of the mirror. But going into this tournament, I didn't anticipate the mirror at all. Like I'm not gonna really sit here and be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna. My testing is for the mirror. But the other thing about Morph is you're happy with Morph and Diablo as well. That's how powerful Diablo is, and sometimes Morph Diablo ends up being better than one drop Diablo or Diablo on 2 because you can just follow up with a Pete, right? So if you play a Morph on 2, you shift the Diablo on 3 and play a Pete, and which makes it very unlikely they're able to deal with your board.
That let the Storm Rage on top deck was just mean.
I mean, I was just drawing so perfect.
Oh man,
But
That's
that's
the
part
secret.
of the game. Yep.
That's a secret. Just draw. Yeah, just
Yeah,
draw the cards you need, and you're good.
Draw better cards. Yeah.
Apparently, there my friends were telling me there was a person in the crowd that was like didn't want me to win, wanted Chris to win. And then when this game happened, the end of game 1 happened, he just started yelling, "It's meant to be! It's meant to be!" Because my draws were just so perfect. Like game 1, I'm gonna tell you right now, like Chris had 7 cards, I had 0. And I was like, in my mind, every card I thought of, I ended up drawing. Like it happened 7 times in a row to the point at which I was like, what is like, I couldn't even process it. I was like, how? I was just like, okay, this is what I need. I hope I draw it. And I would draw it. I was like, oh my God, we're right back in this. Because I felt like up until the finals, I had played every turn. I would not take back a single turn. I had played it exactly the way I wanted to play every single turn of the tournament. And then I felt super fatigued, and I felt like I looked at my hand, and it felt like I had already played the Prince John, but I actually didn't play the Prince John and played a string. And I was like, and Chris just goes, "I'm so sorry," and I'm like, what did I just do? And at that moment I was like, did I just throw away the game because I just felt fatigued for a moment? And that's something I would never like that I can't even recall the last time I did something like that. And so I was just like, that was a moment where I looked at all the judges and Chris, and I was like, I'm mental reset. Let's get back into it. And the cards just came off the top, so I guess it was meant to be.
That mental fatigue for players is real.
There's more mental fatigue in this game than I think any other game I've ever played, because it's decision fatigue. Because like in let's say in Magic, right? Are you not going to play a land on turn 1? Right? In Lorcana, from turn 1, you have to decide which of these 7 or 8 cards am I going to ink. And if you do that for a course of 3 days, it I started having trouble picking my clothes.
Oh my goodness.
We were making jokes about that in the booth during some of your games, because you would have like 20 cards in your hand some games just because of all the triggers you were getting off Diablo and Beast, and go to your turn and I'm just like, it's going to take Zan 10 minutes to figure out what he wants to play because you just have every single card you could ever want.
Yep. Against the blue-red player, I had 22 cards in my hand, and I put it right next to my deck, and I was like, "Oh my God, I have more."
Wow.
Yeah.
And I took extended amount of time to shuffle because my hand had become. I had to organize my hand.
Yeah.
Because I was like, "What am I supposed to ink in this spot?" at that time I'm like literally, you have to do the exercise of making a backup plan for a backup plan for a backup plan for a backup plan for a backup plan. And that
Mm.
is where like you kind of have to draw the line where it's like too much to plan out, but it is fun. It is. But I got extremely fatigued after that tournament. If it wasn't for my friends, I probably would have lost more due to my fatigue, because at a certain point they just started guessing that I needed food and water, and they just started bringing it to me. So that was like honestly really instrumental, because I felt like I couldn't even verbalize that I needed things.
Good friends.
Yeah, they were great.
I had never really thought about that before. Like you're saying, like with Magic, like a land is a land. That's your resource. You don't have, there's no decisions there. But in Lorcana, every time you ink, that's another decision you're making. So
Exactly.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, you made them well.
and materialize the proper cards.
Yes.
That was crazy. I do want to, unless anybody else has any questions for the moment, I do want to shift, because there's something else I want to ask you about. And then actually a couple audience questions, then something else I want to ask you about. If anybody else watching has any suggestions or questions in the chat, like please feel free to ask in the chat. One thing I do want to do though real quick, before I forget, we were talking earlier about a lot of really good players pick green steel. And it just was interesting that there was like this parallel evolution, and everybody arrived and they're like, you're playing green steel. But you all weren't the only ones to pick it. I have a flashback from last week that our statistician Stephen Gettle dug up and posted. And
I actually think Emerald Steel is a bit of a sleeper. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we saw we saw it rise up in Vegas or Birmingham.
No.
I've done some testing with some friends into Emerald Steel, and I've been playing.
Can you hear it now?
Oh, now it's me.
Now I can't hear it.
Oh.
The set. And let me tell you, when Ursula Deceiver and Pete are in the same deck as a Steel Song player, it's kind of miserable because you just can't do anything ever.
Yep. Did that sound come through okay eventually?
Yeah, no, so accurate.
Okay. Yeah. So we keep receipts here sometimes on the show. So,
I feel extra bad too, because I have to tell a side story with this. So a little fun thing that I like to do to see if people catch on to it. Now I guess I'm making it. As casters, we like to wear our little Lorcana pins on our vest or our shirts to represent the game while we're behind the desk. But for every challenge, except for Atlanta, because this started in Atlanta, I've tried to basically represent the ink pairing that I think would win or like do well for that tournament. Because in Atlanta, I just so happened to be wearing a Amber Rapunzel pin with the Amethyst Lorcana pin on top of it, and Joshua won with Amber Amethyst, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. It hasn't worked since then, but for Vegas on day 2, I walked in with a Emerald Stitch pin and a Lorcana Steel pin there on the top next to, I forget what this part of the suit is called, but on my suit jacket. And then I heard that Zach Bivens had lost his green steel matchup into Ruby Sapphire in top 64, and that a friend of mine, Traverse Tavern, had also lost against Ruby Sapphire, him playing green steel in the top 64. So then I was like, well, and then I saw that Ruby Sapphire was about a quarter of day 2, and I was like, I don't think this is going to be a good day for Emerald Steel. So before I actually went into the booth, I changed it, because day one I was wearing a Sapphire Ariel pin with a red Lorcana pin on it for Ruby Sapphire, and it did really well into day 2. So I was like, I'm just going to double down on this. And I should have stayed with the Emerald Steel, because there were 3 in the top 4.
So you had no faith in Zan.
To be fair, now I guess I did know that Zan was playing Emerald Steel, because I think I casted one of his games day 1, but I guess not. I guess not.
You did. You probably had that. Actually, your opponent was in the chat here a while ago. That crazy aggro lemon lime build against Zan in
Oh
a
yeah,
future match.
yeah. That was we played in it was basically the win in for day 2.
Oh.
And yeah, I mean, my matchup does I mean, 3-drop Ursula just lines up really well against hyper aggressive strategies, and so I feel like if my opponent had played the odds correctly and got the right matchup, they would have easily made it to day 2. I mean, they're more likely to play against blue red than green steel, but to that point, I would have probably bet on blue red as well. Like in terms of
Okay.
like just the numbers, it just
Vindicated,
makes more
Brennan.
sense to bet on blue red. It just has, yeah. I mean, honestly, I was surprised. Like I obviously love green steel and I was piloting it, but I would have still like I don't I don't blame you at all for losing us.
Wow. One quick question from our Discord server. Somebody named Dale wants to know if you drew any inspiration from Dale Bellado's Toronto build.
I think Dale came up to me saying that he had a team that felt like green steel was doing well, and but I did not. What were they? I actually don't even know what their deck list looks like right now. Is it also like a Prince John version, or is it like more similar to Zach Bivens build, which I have seen Zach Bivens build?
I would have to check. I just Dale was being cheeky, and so I thought I'd pass it along.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that basically right now in Lorcana, it's almost impossible to have like a pure, never thought of deck list, and I think that will change the more sets we add. Right, when we look at like 10 sets, it'll get to the point at which we can see things that other camps didn't think of. But right now, there's a couple of color combinations that always have a chance to break out, and blue steel is probably next in line. It had a little bit of a showing this weekend, but it could have a bigger one now that green steel is out.
What is your? A couple people ask, what is your worst matchup? And somebody else asked what your toughest matchup was. I think we can kind of lump that together.
Okay. Toughest matchup is the mirror match.
Okay.
Is a mirror match because it is truly a coin flip. I was lucky that I had some cards that ended up like that I was trying to persuade Ed to play. Like I was trying to persuade Ed to play Cove and what do you call it? The Muses. Because I felt like those two cards create the most anomalies in the green color. In terms of like they will change the math for an entire game. Like if a Diablo ends up taking out a 1-drop, right? If it ends up playing against a steel deck, let's say it takes out a Robin Hood because they didn't realize that you were going to be able to Cove and then swing into a Robin Hood. And if they follow up with a Smee, then that same Diablo now has an opportunity to take out the Smee if they either quest or swing at the, and that is completely game warping. And so people never play around Hidden Cove, and so it's such a cheap inkable game changer that I feel like every Diablo shell should take advantage of this card that creates so many anomalies. And then the Muses are, I mean, the perfect example of that is my game 1 in the finals, where there was no other card that could have won in a 7, my opponent having 7 cards, me having 0 situation, where I was able to bounce their entire board back to their hand and somehow stabilize and quest to win. So by the way, I got a chance to check out Dale's version of the deck.
Very similar. Just one card difference, looks like.
I will say Um, the one card I can't imagine not playing is there should be 4 hypnotizes. That card was
Mm.
one of the most phenomenal cards I've ever played with, and it's basically the same card as what's the Mufasa card? You Have Forgotten Me,
You forgot me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they're both the same card actually, right? You Have Forgotten Me is discard 2 for 4 ink, and Hypnotize I think is actually just the same card but a better version of that, where it's always live, right? You can always at least draw a card off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it costs 1 less ink, right? You draw a card, your opponent discards a card, and if you have Prince Johns, then you get to draw 2, and if you have 4 Prince Johns, then you get to draw 5.
So funny.
Hi, Aaron.
Hi, friends.
Hi, Aaron.
Hi,
Congratulations, Zan.
thank you so much.
It was amazing watching you this weekend. So amazing job.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see everybody.
Yeah, people feel validated. Playing Hypnotize since it came out. Look at that. Carolyn saying thanks for justifying my Hypnotize play. Zan, one other,
We have a mosquito or like
and we are completely incapable. We've discovered this, at least me. I am completely incapable of playing it cool when there's a fly or a mosquito in
oh
here.
my gosh.
Like, I'll be recording, brilliant take, and I cannot ignore it.
Yeah. I'm like, just ignore it. Or I'm like, just acknowledge that there is a fly in our studio and keep recording. And I can't.
Yeah,
Well,
my
it makes it
editor-
more entertaining, so it
Sure.
works out.
Yeah.
It does.
That's fair. All right, that's time. So we had a few other questions that circle around this topic, and I know, Zan, this is something that you wanted to talk about, not to
Mhm.
get into some bad vibes, but I do think it's important for a reason. Ellie in our Discord server asked, how do you ignore all the chatter going around at the event and focus on the game? Very similar to somebody here in the chat who asked, did the incident around the disqualification affect the play of the top cut players? And I think that's another mental question. And for those, everybody who's familiar with the event know that there was a disqualification that happened. And I don't want to talk about the name. I don't want to talk about any of that. I don't want it to be feels bad. But the reason I thought it was worth talking about is because, Zan, you were basically the reason that, the individual, was asked to drop out. And 99.9% of Lorcana players in all events are honest players, and when mistakes happen, they're honest mistakes, etc. But I think there's a lesson in the way you handled it, Zan. And you were saying this before we got live, because if you feel like something is going on that's not quite right, if you're unsure, there's a certain it takes some confidence to deal with it in the right way, to call a judge and kind of assert yourself. And there's a lot of people who are new to the tournament space, a lot of people who are new to Lorcana who might not feel like they can do that, especially against another opponent who's confident, who's been playing for years, etc. And so I think there's kind of a lesson in the way you handled things. So I don't know if you wanted to, or I know you kind of wanted to talk about the situation.
Yeah. So we're not going to talk about who it was, but I played. I was playing against a player playing Amber Steel in round 3, and we're both currently 2-0. And so, we're playing for the top of the tournament right now. And so I'm playing against my opponent. We're in game 2. I'm up a game. And this is one of those situations where if my opponent top decks a Grab Your Sword, I will immediately lose the game. I have like a Diablo in play. I have an Ursula in play. I have I think 2 Prince Johns in play, and a Morph in play. It's if a Grab Your Sword comes off the top, I lose. And so I also want to preface this by saying I did not see my opponent draw the actual card. They successfully did distract me. So I'll explain what happened. So my opponent had cast A Whole New World and played a couple of characters, and they were down to 5 cards. I then took my turn, and after A Whole New World, what you usually would like to do with Green Steel is try to stop them from playing songs, because their catch-up mechanism is playing songs. So I played Ursula, and I saw my opponent's hand. It's 2 Svens, which is a moose that untaps a character, unexerts a character, and they can like sing another song or challenge a character, but can't quest again. And 2 Rapunzels and 1 Strength of a Raging Fire. So I take the Strength of a Raging Fire, and then I proceed to tap 5 ink to play a Diablo and a Morph separately. And my opponent then proceeds to ask, I pass the turn, and my opponent then proceeds to ask, how did I play the Diablo on my Morph without discarding a card, an action card? And I was kind of confused because I played them separately, and I exerted 5 ink to do it. And so that question to me was kind of puzzling. But while they were asking me that question, they drew their cards. They drew their card for turn. And usually they kept their hand kind of fanned out, so I could see how many cards that they have. And a lot of players usually keep their hands fanned out. But I noticed my opponent's hand was now in a clump, just one clump. So I couldn't see how many cards they had. And so the question was so irregular, but I thought to myself, something felt wrong. And so I asked my opponent, how many cards do you have in hand? And they took a deep breath and fanned out their hand, and it was 6 cards, not 4. And so immediately my opponent says, oh, 2 cards must have stuck together. But my opponent had filled me in that they had to change their sleeves after round 1 because they got a warning for having bad sleeves, and they had to change their sleeves. And so that was also puzzling to me. And I'm like, okay, what's actually going on? You know, like sometimes you shuffle your opponent's deck at the beginning of the match and you just ask, oh, are these new dragon shields because they feel so fresh? And so I had that information and I was like, okay, this is all just off. I think that my opponent distracted me. And yeah, I felt confident that my opponent distracted me. So I didn't get to see the moment that they drew their cards, and they drew 2 cards and hid it from me. And at that moment, I was like, okay, we're going to pause this and I'm going to call a judge. And so I called the judge, and that's when the investigative process started. And I feel like the thing to take away from this is like you should always have a protocol and be aware of how many cards are in your opponent's hand. I think that there are actually the way that the game, the Lorcana game operates and its rules, it kind of protects players altogether. But the one thing that it can't protect against, or most cards game can't protect against, is drawing additional cards. And so even though my best friend came and sat down at the table right next to us, he didn't notice that my opponent drew extra cards either. And most judges are not going to be able to catch it either, because they're trying to see everything from a wider perspective. Like you have to ask, even though it seems annoying, you have to ask your opponent how many cards in their hand, and you have to keep track of it. Otherwise, they can get away with it. And in this case, I did not see my opponent physically draw 2 cards. My opponent had additional cards, and I caught them using the method of like keeping track of how many cards they have after the fact and how many cards they should have. And so asking that question, I think, is really important in catching people, because it's really hard to catch someone in the act, because again, they will try to distract you. They will set it up in a way that it feels impossible to actually see it happen. So that's really important. The next thing is, I feel like it's important to keep composure, right? My opponent didn't really refute my claims, and they ended up conceding because I felt like they wanted the conversation to end and for me to get the game win and for them to just move on. But I felt like my opponent did not deserve to be in the tournament any longer, and that it wasn't safe for them to stay in the tournament, because I felt like this was malicious and actual cheating and for real. So the important takeaway is like the only one that can protect yourself from cheating is actually yourself. So create the habit of asking how many cards are in your opponent's hand, and hopefully we can keep Lorcana like a safe and good place, and a fair game, because there's a lot of like money on the line, and so people are going to try and take advantage of that, and we just can't let them. So yeah.
Yeah, I think calling judges can sometimes feel scary, especially for newer players or younger players. But the judges are there to uphold the integrity of the game. So never be afraid to call the judge.
Yeah, sorry that was super long-winded. So
Oh, thanks for sharing.
yeah. So yeah, I hadn't like really said it on camera, and I tried avoiding saying it during the tournament. Only did I talk to the judges about it, but a lot of players wanted to talk to me about it, and I was like, look, let the judges do their job. And I mean, Lorcana judges have not failed to impress me, so
Yeah. And again, I'll, in the interest of, because you brought up a good point, the judges are doing their job, and I'm sure that even now there's, there are gears turning within, different organizations, that this incident got started. And, nobody like still don't want to like, call anybody out or don't want this to be a feels bad thing, but it is, but I do think the lessons that you highlighted, are important for anybody who's going to play in this event, particularly newer players who, may be uncomfortable, as you said, Rebecca, calling a judge or standing up for themselves. That it's always good. You should always do that. And then also, Zan, your point of, your game state awareness, should extend to other areas, if you can bear the mental load, just in case. And there are even instances where, players make honest mistakes, in the cards in hand. Maybe they had to like discard an item to shift Diablo, and they were so excited to like, shift Diablo, they forgot to put the card in their discard pile. I don't know. Sometimes, stuff happens. And so that awareness can help resolve some of those game state issues when they happen.
Yeah, I definitely don't want the opposite to happen where everybody believes everybody's cheating, and it creates opposite. I just want people to have the tools of like, and I think the simplest tool is how many cards do you have in hand, because I believe that's going to be, I mean, it's inevitable in any game, that they're just going to be cheaters, and so I believe that the way that they're going to take advantage is probably going to be by drawing extra cards, and that I think that's going to be the strongest tool. How many cards do you have in hand? And everything is backtrackable, right? You can literally reverse play a game, and judges are trained to do that. So
well, and I will say, we kind of asked about like how did you keep your mental state clear after that game, and it sounds like just kind of allowing it to be put behind you and not to dwell on it, and continue bringing it up throughout the weekend, and just like really keeping your head in the game, moving forward onto the next match seems like a healthy place to kind of keep your head at throughout the weekend.
yeah, I mean, honestly, the lunch break saved me. Because it was kind of my opponent was extremely nice, and they started off by saying like, I watch all your videos, I'm a big fan, and I was like, when that happened, I was like so shook. I was like, if this person who says that they like me would like try to unfairly cheat me out of like a win, then they would do it to everybody else as well. So like it just, in tournaments you're not like thinking about like what people are capable of. You're thinking about like, okay, what do I need to do within the rules of the game? And then when something outside happens, you're like, what? That can happen. But yeah, so the lunch break honestly gave me a chance, because like it's like not what you want to be explaining to judges. You just it doesn't feel comfortable talking about that, even if you're the one who's being wronged, So
So when you talk about, obviously, like mental capacity to keep track of like your opponent's cards and just the game state and all of that in general, like what do you do to help yourself combat that mental fatigue and like in preparation for tournaments, during the tournament? I think especially for players out there who are newer to the tournament scene, like knowing what highly competitive players like yourself do to help combat that would be really helpful.
Decision fatigue is going to be the main thing that's going to hurt you. And so picking out your clothes, like I try to pick out my clothes on Wednesday before the tournament. And so I had already packed my suitcase. So I had to make the least amount of decisions by the time I got there on Friday. The only decisions I was really thinking about was like what deck what are the last minute changes I want to make to my deck, and just trying to play as just the game. And I would just like look at my friends and be like, what do you guys want to eat? Like don't make me make this decision right now. Like and yeah, so try to make as little decisions as possible during the time. Just pick all where you're gonna eat and all that stuff, because at the end of the tournament, like in top 8, I didn't feel it literally until the finals. I felt like it all just like fell on me like a huge load in the finals, and that's why I felt like I made the one mistake I feel like I made the entire tournament was in the finals, because it felt really, really, really heavy. So if I felt like if I didn't do that preparation, I think it would have hit me earlier, and then maybe you wouldn't have seen me in the finals. So it's going to affect everybody in this game, especially. Nobody's going to have a free tournament in this game. You're going to be forced to make decisions. And I also noticed when I was playing in top 64, as the day went on, my opponents that were fabulous and great were not making the best decisions. So it was a marathon, right? Like even the best runners are going to slow down at the end. It's just everybody's human. So yeah, I mean, my friends really took care of me on this one, so that felt great.
Great advice.
Like that. And then after your matches, you had this annoying guy asking you questions.
No, you guys were so great. You guys told me exactly where to stand. I was like, I can't make any more decisions. I checked out.
It was funny. There was one point I'll never forget. Like it was our second interview together, I think. And I was trying to do some prep. I was like asking you, okay, about this and about this and about this. And at one point you went, Liam, you just put like your arm on my shoulder. You're like, stop. Like, we're cool. We talk all the time. We'll just vibe.
Just roll with it.
Please stop asking me questions.
And it was funny, and then B, it was such a confidence builder for me. Like I'll never forget that moment. It was fun.
Yeah,
like,
no.
I think you said we have chemistry.
Yeah, I did. You said good.
Yeah.
No, that was awesome.
I have so many fun stories. All right. I know we wanted to get everybody out of here at around an hour. Does everybody have time for our final segment, our trivia segment?
Sure.
Speaking of decisions.
Yeah. All right. Oh, nobody can hear.
Yay! Quiz time.
Hi, Carolyn.
All right. Hi, Carolyn. We're like trying to decide who's going to introduce you.
Hey, everybody.
It's me.
Carolyn.
For those of you who don't know.
Carolyn is our resident quiz master here at the Illumiteers, and also like part statistician and community
Engagement
admin and all the
lead.
things. So like, yeah.
Does all the things.
Voice
The
Keeps
coach.
number
Liam
of
and I on
bags
track.
you have your hand in is just impressive. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Lorcana's my full-time job right now.
Yeah.
Well, Carolyn is our handler.
Also true.
Handler.
I mean, I would go with producer more than handler, but
That's true. Producers.
That's
is
a better
good one.
role. Yeah, that's a
That's
better
a
title.
good yes.
Carolyn's the one who told me what tea to get at Starbucks the morning I lost my voice. So, but no. So Carolyn is here every week, pretty much every week. Yeah, every week.
Every week.
Doing trivia with our guests, and also every day on the Limiteers Discord server where you can play trivia with Carolyn
Super
and
fun.
Fergus. Games such as Badly Drawn Lorcana, Name That Tune, 20 questions, and just standard trivia. So it's a lot of fun. You should jump on in.
It's a good
Carolyn,
one.
what do you have for us tonight? I did not
Uh,
make slides, by the way. Sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Speaking
You
of-
can just, if you have Zan's deck, you can just pull Zan's deck up because all the cards are in Zan's deck.
Ooh,
Mm,
Boom.
It is. Look at that.
there it is.
I'm so proud.
boom.
Oh,
So, since Zan is, our featured guest this evening, I figured we might as well make a Zan themed trivia. So,
Makes sense.
wouldn't me be playing cheating? Be cheating?
well, it's not questions about you. It's questions about your deck and the cards in your deck.
What color are
Oh,
Xana's
okay, yeah.
eyes?
I'm gonna
The
be careful.
character.
All right. So, starting off, in the introduction to which song do the muses tell us that they are the proclaimers of heroes, which is, of course, their subtitle on this card?
And then along came
Along came
Zeus. But
Zeus.
what's the name of the song, though?
Uh-huh.
The Gospel Truth. Ooh.
Yeah,
Is that it?
that's
Oh,
that
wow.
is it. Good job, Rebecca.
Rebecca's the ringer.
By the way, my local friends want me to get a tattoo of the muses.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I've agreed to a temporary tattoo, but not.
There you go. There you go.
Maybe like henna. It lasts you like 2 weeks.
It's a type
and
of
then-
tattoo.
Yeah.
I'll do
Heard of
henna.
There
those.
you go.
I mean,
Henna.
That's also culturally appropriate for me.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
You gotta learn their names first, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was
that
like,
you
man, I'm
probably-
never
We'll,
getting
we'll go over that after the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
I only
cool.
know one of them.
All right. Question number 2. Sudden Chill is a line from, of course, the iconic song Cruella de Vil. In the world of 101 Dalmatians, who wrote that song?
I don't even know the characters' names.
I do. I know it. I'm gonna not answer though. I'll see if anybody else
can't-
knows.
I don't. Am I supposed to know the last name?
Yes.
Oh, last name too. Oh.
Oh yeah, I know the last name.
He's one of a very few characters whose last name is
can I guess it?
important.
Am I allowed to guess it?
Does anybody else know?
I don't.
Okay. go for
Roger
it.
Darling.
No, the Darling family is Peter Pan.
Peter Pan.
Oh,
That's
wait,
Peter
okay.
Pan.
I need
And
to
he's a
darling.
darling.
That's where you got
Yes,
that.
it is.
Okay.
It is
It's-
Roger.
It's Roger. Roger is his name. I didn't know
Yeah.
his last name.
Yeah.
Roger
Roger, the dog owner. Somebody said in the chat.
the dog owner.
Roger Dalmatian.
Roger.
Roger Spot.
Roger.
Roger.
of
It's
Baker
just
Street.
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Roger.
I'll say this much. It's alliterative.
Rabbit.
Roger.
Roger.
Is
Sorry,
there a
wrong
line?
franchise.
Roger. Then he would be Mr. Rogers.
Can you feed us the line like from the
Really?
film where it said?
Roger, dear.
It's not
No,
alliterative.
Jim Deere is from Lady and the Tramp.
Oh man,
Good
we're
guess.
circling.
Roger. I
Is
feel
there a
like we-
line, Carolyn? In
I feel
the
like
film
we
that,
should-
like,
There is.
We should get it with Roger. There's a line in the film where
give
they
us
say,
the
wow,
line
there's-
where like
Roger Roosevelt.
Roger
Just-
Rodriguez.
I'm
Roger.
just guessing stuff now.
Roger Dodger.
Roger Dodger. That's a good one.
Roger Radcliffe.
Radcliffe.
Oh.
There's
They're
Chris.
requesting for yeah, Chris got it in the chat.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Radcliffe.
Is that
Roger Radcliffe. I did not
Where-
remember that.
Where is that said?
It's in the film.
Yeah.
oh
I believe you. I believe you.
Yeah, I mean you've been wrong before.
But-
I'm
Oh.
pretty sure that's how Pongo introduces him.
Is it?
Actually?
oh
Mm,
Oh.
when he's
Yeah, we're
introducing
watching
his
tonight.
owner.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
It's his human.
Yep.
Okay, we're on
But-
a roll.
All right. Which 2 places does Elsa hit Anna with her magic?
Mhm.
hidden code.
So
Her
bad
head.
at this.
That's the first time.
Uh-huh.
The
Her
second
head is-
time.
Heart.
And her, that's the
And her
second
heart,
time.
yep,
Her
her head
and the
head
heart.
and her heart.
There.
No.
They're
Oh,
two
wow.
very dangerous places. it sounds like.
Right.
Well, not,
Like,
not
probably the
according to
worst.
Grandpappy. Grandpappy says the heart, the heart is
That-
the more dangerous one.
Yes,
The head can be convinced.
convinced.
The head can be convinced.
Mhm.
We watched that scene quite a few times recently for a particular reveal
Gee
video.
whiz, Liam. Why would we
I
have
wonder
watched
why.
Wonder
a lot of Grandpappy?
Yep.
Did I
Nice.
tell you that it took over an hour to paint this man gray?
How much of him did you paint?
And then all the spirit gum.
Oh my
So
gosh,
the spirit
so
gum
much
is the
spirit
worst.
gum. And then he was like, put it on my eyebrows. I was like, you clearly did not do theater in high school because this is a horrible idea.
It's true. It's commitment.
Anyway,
All right, next question. Which 70s pop star voiced the singing voice of Li Shang and therefore sang
Oh,
the
Oh.
iconic line, Strength of a Raging Fire?
Donny Osmond.
Donny Osmond. No.
Yeah.
Yes. Donny
Yes,
Osmond.
Donny
Yes.
Osmond.
Yes.
Don't doubt yourself. You knew it.
Yes.
You could have said long time. The theme of Vegas, long time Vegas.
Oh my gosh, have y'all
you
seen
know-
the video
Very true.
of him performing that song in his Vegas show?
No.
What?
It is fantastic.
Amazing. Do you know he also played Joseph in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat?
I did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look at all of us theater nerds in here.
Oh, yeah.
I know. Sorry, y'all.
This is such a knowledge drop.
Yeah.
I own that on VHS.
Look at you.
VHS.
You'll always learn something new hanging out with us, Sam.
Along with cats.
Yes.
Watch me some cats on VHS in high school. Let me tell
That's
you.
weird. That's weird.
All right, last question.
Last question.
Name 3 things or people that Morph transforms into in Treasure Planet.
Oh
no.
man.
Oh my god.
Hashtag out.
I've only watched that movie once, if I'm being honest, and it was only like 5 months ago.
That
Okay.
Oh, that's
movie
super recent.
can't keep my attention long enough for me to remember this.
A sword.
Bird.
A bird.
What about a key?
Who?
A key?
A key.
I don't know.
Does he
John
turn into
Silver?
a coffee cup?
Like, does he mimic John Silver?
Not Silver, but another pirate.
Group.
Group.
Yeah, Scroop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm, there you go.
Try.
If
There's
we
one.
say enough words, we'll get there.
There's one. You got 2 more.
Spoon.
A spoon.
Oh wow.
I was like, I know there's some utensil.
And then you said a key a minute ago, Zan. Not a
Yeah.
key, but something else that unlocks.
Something else that
An
unlocks.
iPhone. I'm kidding.
A padlock.
What else unlocks?
Think about in that movie.
Treasure chest. I don't know.
See, that's the problem, Carolyn. We've all seen it only like one time.
I
Something
saw
that
it one
unlocked
time.
from
I
the
think I was
movie?
like 12.
Okay,
Treasure
Handcuffs.
think about other cards from that movie.
Hmm.
The map.
That
Is
unlocked.
the map?
The
on
map.
it?
Oh, the map.
Oh.
Map of Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. We got there.
You got
We got
there.
An
there.
apple.
Yeah. First try every time. First try. The map.
Good- go
Naturally
team.
90 at the end.
Good
Yeah,
job,
we-
everybody.
We did such a great job, everybody.
Yep. We all
Thanks
we
for
all
carrying me.
contributed there.
Thank you.
We're Lorcana content creators, no big deal.
Seven
Seven
more
horse.
Don't worry about it. We have Disney
Um,
knowledge.
Yeah.
ABBC also came in. It's not exactly an apple, but it is a space fruit that looks like an apple. So
Oh.
There you go.
Space
Okay.
apple.
Space apple.
Brenda says the 7 Horcruxes.
Love it.
Thanks. All right. I one more fun thing to tie things up, but before we do that and get ready for the signups, let's go around and say where everybody can find you all if you're watching. So let's start. Carolyn, you're the last one in. Why don't you start off?
sure thing. You can always find me in the same place. I am at Twitter at Lorcana Bell, Instagram at Lorcana.bell, and you can always find me on Discord, either in the Illuminators Discord or the Love to Lore Discord. I am the community admin for both, and I have nothing else to do with my time, so I am always there.
Supporting a lot of us.
That's
so.
gonna change soon.
Yeah, we hope. I have another final interview in 2 weeks, so
Yeah.
Go, Carolyn, go, go,
Yay.
Carolyn, go.
And Questing for Lore just found the Donny Osmond video, and
There you
I
go.
think there's a lot of people looking that
Epic.
up right now. So,
Fantastic.
great,
yeah.
great watching for later this evening once we
Yes.
start.
Rebecca, thanks for joining us again on such
Yeah.
short notice
Thanks
and
for
squeezing us
having
in.
me.
Where can people find you?
I am mostly over on Instagram, also Twitter and Discord, and a bunch of different communities. You can find me everywhere at Rebecca Quests. That's me.
Yes.
Woo.
Woohoo.
And Brandon, once again, you're pretty much the co-host at this point.
Yeah, Steven was telling me earlier today, only I have more appearances than you.
Oh, wow. There you go.
This
Yeah,
is
that
number
makes-
9.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Number
I
nine
now
for
need
you.
another just to round it off. You know,
There you go.
Yeah. Where can people follow what you're doing?
you guys can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube at b224. Actually, that's a lie. Instagram's at b224yt, I think, but I'm sure I'll
Mhm.
show up if you Google that. What am I talking
that
about?
far.
It's late. I'm exhausted. But yeah, you can find me there. I post Lorcana stuff, basically. That's it.
And here
So descriptive.
most Monday nights. And Zan, the latest Disney Lorcana champion, thanks so much for taking the time, despite the
for having
fact that
me.
you're
Congrats,
exhausted.
Zan.
Thank you for having me.
We should
And
have
happy
to
belated
attend,
birthday.
like,
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We
It was also Steve Warner's birthday, so that's
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, whoa.
I share a birthday with Steve Warner and Bilbo Baggins.
That's pretty
Fantastic.
Page one of the book,
Magical.
which is pretty amazing. Zan, where can people find you? And do you have anything exciting coming up, content-wise, or anything that people can look forward to?
Yeah, I'm going to be posting a guide for Green Steel probably on Friday, and you can find me on Twitter at Zan_Syed.
And the last question: somebody wants to know what number Mickey you have.
I
if you're
got-
comfortable sharing.
I got 14.
14?
Hey, that's a good number. I
Ooh,
like
that's a
it.
low number.
I like it.
Yep.
The very last thing I want to do, if you'll all indulge me, one more birthday thing. I got a gift from Scott Cipher at dinner the night we left. He gave me 2 first chapter packs, and it didn't feel right. It was a gift from a community. It didn't feel right opening them by myself. So I wanted to open one here
So
just to share what we got
Birthday packs.
From-
Ooh, thanks, Scott. Yeah.
from Scott.
Thanks.
Scott.
it's an
And
enchanted Elsa.
Right.
I hope.
hopefully,
That'd be dope.
That would
hopefully,
be.
I don't know. Hopefully, there's some fun stuff. First
Dingle
chapter,
Hopper.
Dingle
right?
Hopper.
Yzma.
Scimitar.
Oh, that's a Kendall Hill card.
Yeah. and this-
Rose.
Rosalia.
Tangle.
That's an Ariwelli. All right, we're
Chief
gonna do
Dewey.
commons. Perel, the artist, nobody knows who it is. True story.
Hashtag Shane Harlow.
All right, now I feel like I should go up here.
Shmish. Shmish.
Rare.
Where? Scar.
No,
Scar.
it's not the good scar, but all right.
Not the good
Uh,
scar.
Oh,
It's not amazing. And
Aw.
all right.
Genie.
All right.
You gonna open the other one?
Save the
I was
best
gonna
for
save it
last.
until next week. Do you want me to open it now?
Oh.
Open it now.
Of course we can open it now.
We're not gonna get into it.
We don't get a
It's
chance.
Don't say
You
that.
have come to the wrong.
Here
channel
comes the
where
clip.
we
Clip
find
it here.
Clip
Clip
it
it
here,
here.
Steven.
What is it? It's a Mickey pack?
It's a Mickey pack.
A
Still
Mickey
my
pack.
favorite video
Okay.
of all time is when
Okay.
I'm like inviting random
Wow.
strangers to watch our child at Fort Worth. It's like the best book ever.
And it is pretty good. All right. And World Home No One Donations, which I thought a lot about tonight.
Working
One of our preview cards.
together.
It's awesome. Pongo.
Pongo. I loved
That's a lot.
Pongo in set one.
Pongo.
Oh, Grace.
Pongo
the vase of
Radcliffe.
Dexter.
And
Yeah.
T-Rex had a great cosplay as
Yeah,
Frank
she
Beckton
did.
in Vegas.
All right.
Befuddle.
Yeah. Nope.
Pre-errata. Post
Jasper, we got the other one.
Yeah, Horace and Jasper in the same pack.
Steel from Rich, Aaron's favorite card.
Ugh.
I want to build a
There
deck
you go.
around this Ariel so bad.
The item collector. Or what? Ah,
Oh, look, it's an
Ah, okay.
enchanted.
It's a healing touch.
healing
Nevertheless, Scott, that was
touch.
fun. Thank you so much.
Hey.
Um,
Thank you.
that was
Happy
a treat.
birthday, Liam.
Happy
Yes,
birthday,
happy
Liam.
belated
Birthday.
birthday.